Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last session of the Earth Observation Summit. We are glad that after 2 days, we came to this final session in which we will provide some final information to you about EO4GEO project and about how can you join us and participate and contribute to the activities which we are conducting. With me is Daniel Sugar. He will help me in the running of this session. And our speakers today are Danny Vandenbroucke. He is a technical and scientific coordinator of the project, and Milva Carbonaro, the project coordinator of the EO4GEO. So the two main issues are today on the panel or in this session, and this is what are the next steps in the frame of the project and how can you contact. And the first presentation will be given by Danny Vandenbroucke about some comments on the whole summit and next steps of the project. Danny, please, floor is yours.
Thanks, Željko. Thanks, everyone, for participating in this Earth Observation Summit. I think at the end of this session also, we will also express our thanks to many of you that contribute to the summit. But maybe before we do that, I would like to just give my personal observations and things I noticed throughout the 2 days. First important observation is, I think, that we can see that the EU summit and, of course, also the Eyes on Earth roadshow attracted a big interest. We can see that from the number of people registered, but also there were several sessions in parallel that were attended quite well. I saw for the EU summit attendees between 60, 70 people at the same moment, but I guess the figures are higher because people were maybe shopping a little bit from time to time, which is normal. But that indicates that there is quite a good interest. We could also see that from the different questions and comments in the chat. Most of you didn't see that, but when you were presenter or chairing a session, you could see feedback, and that was also good. And we certainly will come back to these comments and these questions at a later stage. So I think there is a big interest. Moreover, we should notice that there are in parallel several other initiatives and events in this same week and even the same day of today, in which our community is involved. For example, today you have also sessions of the Inspire conference, which is running in parallel. And otherwise also maybe part of these people should have or could have joined us. ISO TC211 has also several meetings. OGC has spread over various days also meetings, and we know from these communities that they are interested in what we are doing. So big interest that is and participation, so that's very good. I think also the first day we had very good introductions in the plenary session, where in fact the starting point for EO4GEO has been a little bit confirmed, which expressed, in fact, the need to define the right skills for the right time for different organizations, the industry, the uptake of Copernicus, and of course also for related initiatives. So you see that what we try to do, there is a real demand for that. And you could see that also in the panel discussion, for example, all these elements were confirmed. So the idea of having more demand-driven offer of academic and vocational education and training is confirmed throughout the whole summit, I think. And then I hope, and I'm convinced, personally I found it quite interesting, even if I'm part of the project, we walked through the different aspects of EO4GEO, the project and the different activities. And in fact, we hope that we have given you a glimpse of what we have done, are still doing, because you only saw part of the huge amount of work that has been done by the Alliance. And we walked through a logic scene and flow of activities, starting with analyzing business processes, real work cases, where geospatial data and Copernicus data are of utmost importance, so the business process that we model. And then we went through and we visited how we see the curriculum design approach. And we saw also that there is a good tool for doing that, to support that work and to develop that both for academic and vocational training. And then we went a little bit deeper in the body of knowledge, which we see not as a Bible, but as rather as a kind of motor to steer the work and to refer to through the tools, so not maybe directly, but that defines our common language. And then we drilled further down and we saw to the perspective of the businesses, because it's not a scientific or academic exercise. It's meant to be used and reused and uptaken by public sector bodies, by private sector, to define job offers, to define occupational profiles. And we are convinced that also when you saw the tools, that these can support this type of work that is done by small and medium enterprise, but also by big companies and by public sector bodies. And then we had one of the last sessions was then to look into how the training and the learning scenarios would bring this all together with particular examples and cases, and how you can design the curricula, define the skills, and then also translate this into concrete training actions. And to be honest, that's still work that is now starting and that will happen over the next couple of months and the next year. So that's some observations from my side. And of course, afterwards, we will make a more formal evaluation. And then it might be also interesting for those that are still online to know better what will happen over the next months. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So what are the next steps? Because we have mainly presented what has been done over the past 2.5 years, what is ongoing. But of course, it's not finished because you heard before that EO4GEO, the Alliance will continue to work certainly till the end of next year, but also beyond that. So what is the ongoing work? Just a very brief overview, because there are many things happening in parallel. Of course, you heard about our body of knowledge. The idea is that we do continuous updating, improvement, adding concepts, adding references, etc., adding skills, etc., etc. So it has been said in several presentations that we hope, let's say, to finalize a consolidated version by the end of June. So we might release in July 2020, maybe it's a little bit later, but let's say in the summer months, a formal release that then will be used by the other tools. So currently, when you saw the tools, it's still on an older version, but that will be a new version. We also foresee to continue working on it and to have another release next year, probably also in July or a little bit later, but certainly before the end of the project. We will have special attention for content that we need in the different training actions that has been introduced to you. We will not, of course, cover all the aspects of the book because this is impossible, but we will have 3 subsectors. One is climate change, the other smart cities, and then the integrated applications, where we need all the concepts for developing the curricula and preparing training material and conducting the activities and the training actions. And of course, we will try or do our utmost best also to integrate new technological and societal trends that are very relevant for these training actions. Then in parallel, and in going on in parallel, is the work on the tools. They are ready in prototype, you heard that. it's ready for testing, in fact, but we only want to release them when we have this consolidated version of the box so that they can work on this consolidated version. So that will only happen after July. So I guess after the summer months, it will be available for people, organizations that really want to test it on their own cases. And then what we will do is to take that feedback into account, and also, of course, feedback that will come up from our own alliance, because we use the tools for preparing our training actions and so forth. So there's a continuous flow of feedback and suggestions. You might have bugs, you might have really elements that should be modified, etc. And that we need to do as well. So that's why the release of the tools is a little bit later, because the current testing that we have done with the consortium, we need to maybe integrate a few things already. So it's work that will go on also next year, of course, in the sense that we will intensively or more intensively use it over the next couple of months and also next year. So we look into it in a permanent way. Then, of course, design of the curricula and the development of the curricula started already. You saw in different sessions. We are still working on that. It is work in progress. It's not entirely finished, but it's also important to finish that work in view of the training actions themselves that really bring all the aspects together, the methodology, the use of the tools, the use of the book, etc. So preparation of training materials itself will be part of that, especially for those curricula designed for the training actions. And then, of course, we will also do in different formats real training actions for these three subsectors that I mentioned before. So there will be maybe physical, face-to-face training actions or virtual training actions or a combination of those to be seen, but that will happen in autumn and especially also towards next year, spring next year. We didn't discuss too much during the summit you heard about the long-term action plan. We already developed a strategy for our sector for skills development. That document is still available, still very relevant, and I would argue go and look at our website to download it and to read it if you didn't do it yet. But based on this strategy, we started in fact last year to develop the long-term action plan, because in my opinion, EO4GEO is maybe my first project, and I've done a lot of projects, you can believe it, where we really do more than defining a new consortium agreement at the end of the project or develop an exploitation plan. Usually all these nice efforts do not lead into concrete next steps. That should and will be different in EO4GEO. The long-term action plan is not to be a big words, but also a kind of roadmap in which direction we can develop and further maintain in the long run everything we have done and are doing here. And that will cover many aspects. It will cover governance. How will we deal with that? We are quite open. We do not want to be exclusive, but rather inclusive. We are looking for other companies, for other universities to join and to work together. So the governance model will look into that. Of course, without money, you can't do things in the long term. Usually that's the problem. So we're looking into a business model and a business plan, calculating costs for different aspects, but also different ways to do it. So we are investigating that. We want to become mainstreaming, not to be isolated in our own bubble, but to go outside our bubble, and not only in Europe, but beyond Europe, beyond our sector even. And for that, we also need a maintenance strategy, whether that's for the BOK, for the tools, in fact, for everything. We need to know how we can maintain the pieces that we have developed and are developing still. So that will be all integrated in a kind of integrated long-term action plan, and the strategy, which is already being developed, is part of that. And to discuss this and to submit this to the community and to related communities, we intend to have a big final conference in autumn 2021. I hope we can do it physically, but you have always to speak with two words. So we don't know yet, but probably we are able to do it physically. It is foreseen to happen in Brussels, and we will invite the bigger community, and the intention is to have a quite big closing conference with also kind of endorsement of the long-term action plan. Also in parallel with all these activities, we are a lot focused also on building our network of networks. We are already a network of networks in our current alliance, but we are not exclusive, as I said before. We want to be inclusive. We want to build it further, because mainstreaming and long-term strategy can only be successful if we really succeed in building and strengthening this network of networks. And we will do that in different steps and by different, through different channels. Of course, the traditional newsletters, please follow us on the website. You will have access to materials, to the tools at a certain point in time. You will have calls for that. There will be also other events, intermediate events. There will be one in autumn of this year, hopefully also physically in Riga, and next year in springtime in Rome. So the community will be invited as well to these events, and hopefully they can be physical. There is in the meantime several papers and publications that are of interest. You can find them back on the website. Please have a look at it. Some are more scientific, other more vulgarization. So different levels, different topics, different elements of the project. And of course, but that will be explained better by Milva, is we want to broaden the alliance, as I said, and not stick to the alliance and the network of networks that we currently have. And I think that's all I wanted to explain. Happy also to answer questions later on. And I hand over now to Milva.
Thank you very much, Danny, for your synthesis and analysis of what went on in these 2 days. I'm now sharing my screen. I hope you can see it. Say yes with your head. Can you see? Yeah?
Yes, Milva, we can see it.
Okay, very good. So, again, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for attending this closing session of the second EO Summit. As mentioned a few minutes ago by Danny, in these 2 days you were able to see presentations and demos on the different activities going on with the EO4GEO, and which are the outcomes presently being produced, released, or for which the implementation is undergoing. My task now is to give you a short, to recall you a little bit how, as we hope, you can get engaged in our project. I start with showing you a screenshot of our website, which has been mentioned several times in these days. As you can see here, you can get in touch with our project both through a contact form and through the Get Involved session. I don't go through very much within other sessions of the website, but under resources, as Danny mentioned a few minutes ago, under resources you can download all the public deliverables that have been released up to now, as well as publication of interest in terms of dissemination, like, for instance, project leaflets and all the published newsletters so far. Basically, through the Get Involved section, you can follow several ways to actively be involved in EO4GEO. You can join the Alliance as associated partners, and so becoming part part of the network of networks mentioned by Danny as well, that we are trying to build, because indeed we are open and we are looking for newcomers, for new stakeholders to take part in the network and be involved in the activities. You can join the project as an expert to revise or feed the body of knowledge, still within the Get Involved session, where you will find the relevant application form. And then you can, of course, subscribe to receive our newsletter, which is released every 3 months. And you will find still in the same session that other projects established synergies with EO4GEO. I can mention the COPHub project, for instance, which has been mentioned in the previous session. And so we are looking forward to establishing synergies with other projects. So please use the contact form to contact us and to see how your project and EO4GEO can collaborate. To make you just an example, being part of the network of sectoral skills alliance within the promoted within the blueprint for sectoral cooperation on skills, we are establishing also cooperations with similar alliances within other sectors, for instance, the automotive sector, the construction sector, the tourism sector. And you can find this, for instance, reflected in our blog on the Medium channel. You can also use the contact form to contact us to take part in the training actions that will be, let's say, organized from autumn this year or also spring next year, as Danny mentioned already. But also, as mentioned several times, also in previous presentations, we are really interested in your feedback on our tools, which are being released are now in a prototype version, but will be released in a test for testing, let's say, starting from most probably from July this year. And you will be invited to test and use them, as we are doing in EO4GEO, for instance, to describe an existing curriculum or to design a new one or to design even a lecture, a module, as has been explained in previous presentations. But for instance, if you are a company, you can use the job offer tool to describe a job offer based on occupational profiles, or even describe a general occupational profile. You can use the tools to find the relevant knowledge and skills in the body of knowledge, and more according to the release of the various tools that can be available later on during the project, as mentioned, starting from July in many cases. Also, I recall a question that our colleague from Cookie, who are the main developers of the BOK-based tools, were asked this morning whether it is possible to provide, let's say, ideas and suggestions for other features in the tools or for other tools with BOK-based which could be of interest. Yes, we are open, of course, to your suggestions. And please use the testing possibility as soon as it will be available to provide us with your ideas and suggestions. I must mention that right now the possibility for testing for newcomers, so for people not belonging to the consortium, is not yet available. It will be upon registration starting from July, most probably. And probably the associated partner in EO4GEO will be, let's say, invited maybe a little bit earlier to start testing as a first instance the tools. Important to mention regarding the associated partner is that also you can join us also to have visibility within our network of partners and contacts, because you must consider that in the optic of network of networks, several partners of EO4GEO are already networks per se, like ERSC, the European Association of Companies Using Remote Sensing, or Nereus, or even GISIG, the coordinator of EO4GEO, which counts 60 partners across Europe. So as associated partner, you can have access to, let's say, the visibility offer of all these networks, and you can be also, you will be also featured in a dedicated article on the Medium channel of the project and in the EO4GEO newsletter. So this just to mention you a few of possibility to be involved. But of course, you can follow us for more opportunities. I invite you already now, if you want, to leave your contact details in the chat to stay tuned and being contacted again, for instance, for the learning actions or for the testing of the tools and so on. But you can always follow us, of course, on the project website, on our Twitter account, and on our Medium blog, the addresses of which you can find here again in these slides. So this is what I wanted to tell you right now. The tools, of course, anyway, are available if you to browse them, to have a look. So in read-only mode, so you can still have a look, but without contributing, let's say, without using in practice. I wish to take the opportunities of the last 2 minutes to really thanks once more the organizer, our partners in the EO4GEO and host Faculty of Geodesy of the University of Zagreb, Željko and his team, and of course the colleagues from the roadshow, the Eisenhower Roadshow, which was twinned with us in this great adventure, and of course the Croatian Ministry for Science and Education and the European Commission supporting the event. Željko, maybe I stole your words, but I thought that as project coordinator we had to thanks as well. So thank you for your attention. We are open, of course, for any question you might have right now in the chat or even later through our communication channel. And I hand back to Željko. Many thanks.
Yes, thank you, Milva. Thank you, Danny, for your words and presentations. Of course, it's a privilege of the project coordinator to, so to say, to speak and to finish with the final words, so to say, to finalize the summit. But before this, we have a question from Lazar Filchev, coming from Bulgaria, asking us, could project present EO4GEO activities and onboarding process at the National Copernicus Workshop to be held online in Sofia at the end of July 2020? Danny, Milva?
I think yes, no problem. You just contact us and we can see how to organize it.
Yes. Lazar sent us his email, but of course we would kindly ask you, Lazar, to send us a little bit more details about the event, and we will gladly contribute to your event and present the EO4GEO project. This is the only question which we have in the question box, and I think this is also, I think we were very comprehensive during those 2 days presenting the project, and hope that we didn't leave open questions. So just allow me to summarize a little bit. I am very pleased after all the turbulences which have been caused by the COVID-19 epidemics, and after we simply thought nicely to have a 4-day event in Zagreb, enjoying in summer, etc., we finished in this online event, but it was, I think, quite successful. And in this context, I want to thank to all participants, presenters, moderators, reviewers for participation and contribution to the event, either with presentations or with questions raised. Of course, as Milva said, I would like to thank all the organizers coming either from the Ministry of Science and Education, coming from the EO4GEO project, coming from the local, so to say, organizing team here from the Faculty of Geodesy in Zagreb, but also coming from the Eyes on Earth roadshow, which provided a complete technical support to this event. And I can really say that people behind the curtain enabled that this 2 days online conference went so smoothly without really any technical problem, what is definitely contributing to the impact and to the results of this conference. So we were, as we heard, 650 registered participants. There were 20 sessions in total in all streams. There were up to 4 parallel sessions in some moments. And we had an opportunity to hear 11 addresses by the officials of the Croatian government and European Commission, also from business and academia representatives. There was more than 50 presentations with a lot of interaction and raised and given answers during those sessions. And so I think I can say that we are very pleased with the outcome of the Earth Observation Summit and Eyes on Earth Roadshow, which is still ongoing. And also we had a track with presenting the activities of some European Commission agencies. So all this had contributed, I think, to this event. Regarding the EO Summit, I hope we have managed to present the work which has been done in the project, especially with what is related to the development, to concept, to presenting a strategy, the idea of the overall project, and the development of the tools for an approach and methodology how to design an educational offer in the field of Earth observation and geoinformatics. And as both Danny, Milva, and many speakers before mentioned in this session, the project is meant to be interactive with the stakeholders, with the Earth Observation and Geoinformatics Society. And I can just repeat, please involve yourself in the project. We are open for cooperation in many ways, as Milva explained, and contribute not only to the project, but contribute to everybody in developing educational offer and long-term strategy for the future of European Earth observation and GI sector, especially in the educational sphere. So, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for supporting us and participating in the Earth Observation Summit. And I wish you, in the name of the organizing committee and my own, further to stay safe, to hope that we will meet physically soon somewhere in the Europe or worldwide, maybe in Zagreb. I'll be happy to welcome you in Zagreb on some other occasion. And thank you very much. And with this, I would like to close the second Earth Observation Summit, and wish you all the best in coming time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.